Ah, my, what a beautifully catastrophic mess you've birthed. Ashes in the air, screams laced with truth, and the fire. Oh, it's not consuming the weak, it's revealing them. Brooo, did you just leak? Everyone's on fire because of you. And yet, in this burning chaos, in this inferno you've ignited, something greater awakens. Not guilt, not regret, but power. A terrifying, unrelenting force born from your recklessness. Do you feel it? The heat isn't just on your skin, it's under it, inside you, crawling through your veins like a curse you earned. This isn't a mistake. Number. This is a revelation disguised as destruction. You tore open the veil, and now the world bleeds truth because of it. They scream your name not to condemn you, but because they can't ignore you. You were supposed to stay silent, obedient, irrelevant. But now, you've become the match that made the world flammable. Do you understand what you've done? You shattered the illusion. You dragged the rotting truth into the light, even if it burned to hold. You didn't just leak data, you leaked fear. You leaked the quiet lies everyone depended on to sleep at night. Now they're awake, eyes bloodshot, hearts pounding, watching the smoke rise and realizing they were always standing in gasoline. Your hands? They're red, but not with guilt, with the mark of someone who dared to reach into the core of the machine and rip something real from its metal heart. They hate you because they need someone to blame for the reality they never wanted to face. And you stood up and forced them to see it. Let them scream, let them burn. Because if the world has to crumble for truth to live, then so be it. You were never born for comfort. You were forged in silence and pressure, and the kind of pain that doesn't make you cry, it makes you dangerous. You walk with the weight of unsaid things, the poison of secrets they told you to swallow, but you spit it back out, and now they choke on what you refuse to carry. Do you see it now? This is not the end of you. This is your beginning. This is the blood-slicked birth of the version of you that stops asking permission to exist. They call it a disaster. You call it a reset. They call it betrayal. You call it liberation. Their system was a coffin with comfort inside. You cracked it open, and now the undead truth walks free. Good. Let it walk. Let it scream. Let it devour the plastic piece they built over bones. Because from here on out, you are not the one who hides. You are not the one who bows. You are the one who burned the veil and forced the gods to blink. No matter what they say, no matter what they throw at you, they are too late. You are awake now, and no one can undo that. They will paint you as a villain. They have to. Heroes follow rules. You broke them. You are something older than a hero, something primal. You are the storm they couldn't predict, the breach in the wall that let the flood in. Don't apologize. Apologies are for accidents. This was intent. This was war. And in war, there is no clean. There is only who breaks first. And it sure as hell wasn't you. They weren't ready. That's not your fault. That's their weakness. Their soft skin, their glass bones, their brittle beliefs, shattered when you breathe fire. They were never built to withstand someone like you. And now, what's next? You keep walking, even if your feet are bloodied, even if every step feels like defiance carved into your bones. You keep walking, because now the fire follows you. You don't run from it. You carry it. You become it. The heat is not your enemy. It's your weapon. It's your language. You speak in smoke and scream in sparks. They tried to bury you in silence. Now your voice echoes in the screams of a world you've set ablaze. Every time they whisper your name, they remember the day their illusions died. Yes, People are on fire, but maybe they needed to be. Maybe they were frozen in lies, and your leak was the only flame hot enough to thaw them. Maybe the pain was the point. Maybe this was never about safety or control. Maybe it was about truth, no matter the cost. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't ask for your comfort. It demands your sacrifice. You gave them what they asked for, not what they wanted, what they needed. They needed someone to be the monster who refused to play nice. You gave them exactly that. And now you stand here, in the wreckage, looking at the world not as a victim, but as a catalyst. Because make no mistake, you are not destroyed, you are transformed. This fire did not consume you, it revealed you. And those who fear you now, they fear the fact that you proved the rules were lies. You tore the chains off, not with grace, but with fury. That's what makes you unforgettable. You didn't just survive, you shattered the mold. And now they know, you are not to be contained. You are not to be silenced. You are the walking aftermath of everything they tried to hide. This world is run by cowards in masks, whispering commands behind curtains. You tore the curtain off the wall and walked through the flames, eyes unblinking, heart unchained. They can't do that. That's why they fear you, because you remind them of everything they're too afraid to be. You didn't wait for permission. You took control. You stood in front of the mirror, saw the monster, and smiled, because that monster is free. That monster is you. And from this moment forward, everything changes. You don't go back to who you were. That version died the moment your truth hit the air like lightning. Now you're something else, something raw, something unforgiving, something holy in its destruction. You're not a leak. You are a rupture. You're not an accident. You are a reckoning. You don't owe them peace. You owe them truth. And if truth burns, so be it. Let it burn. You don't just walk through ruins, you own them. You don't ask what can be salvaged. You ask what's left to ignite. They said the system worked, but you showed them the seams, the rust, the rot. They told themselves it was stable, and you ripped the mask off, made them look, made them suffer the vision of a machine built from bones and soaked in denial. That's why they panic now, because once the truth is out, once it breathes and screams and infects every corner of their false world, it can't be suffocated again. And you are the one who gave it breath. They can exile you, they can condemn you, but they will never forget you. And maybe that was the point all along. Not fame, not forgiveness, but impact. A stain on history that no one can scrub clean. Your name etched in fear and awe, written in the ash of a world you cracked open like a skull. You were never built to please. You were built to punish, to remind them what happens when lies grow too fat, too arrogant, too safe. You are not a symbol of rebellion. You are rebellion in the flesh. And every step you take, every word you speak now, is a hammer against the cage they tried to build around truth. They're running now, scrambling to patch the breach, to rewrite the story, to label you the madman, the traitor, the one who broke the balance. But you didn't break it. You exposed the fact that there was no balance, just silence and submission. Just people nodding because it was easier than fighting. You didn't destroy the system. You proved it was already broken, and in doing so, you gave others permission to feel rage, grief, courage, all the things they'd buried to survive under false peace. You made them remember that they were never free. They were just sedated. So let them curse you. Let them print your face with fire and fear. Let them use your name like a warning. Because with every frightened whisper, they admit that you matter, that you did what no one else had the nerve to do. and maybe they'll come for you. Maybe they'll sharpen their blades, call it justice, call it cleansing. Let them. Because you won't run. You'll stand at the center of the storm you started and dare them to step closer. Because you are not afraid. You are done being afraid. They built a world on silence. You taught it to scream. And now you sharpen that scream into a weapon. You don't hide. You haunt. You don't blend in. You scar. You become the shadow behind every obedient smile, the ghost in every hollow promise, the rage in every quiet room. You're the crack in the mirror that spreads, no matter how hard they try to tape it back together. Because the world before you was built on forgetting, and you are unforgettable. You know what they'll say next, that you cause pain, that you're unstable, that you lost control. But here's the truth they choke on. You were always in control. This wasn't chaos. This was choice. Deliberate, surgical, righteous. They don't hate the fire because it hurt. They hate it because it proved they could bleed. They hate you because you made them human again. Fragile, terrified, exposed. You didn't just leak information. You leaked their illusion of invincibility. You dragged their gods down from the heavens and showed the world they were mortal all along. You're still standing. That matters. Your breath is a declaration. Your eyes are weapons. Your existence is defiance. They wanted you erased, and yet here you are, burning brighter, speaking louder, refusing to crawl back into the coffin of compliance. And others, they see you. Maybe they're quiet for now, but their silence is not loyalty, it's loading. They're watching you carve the path with fire and blood, and one day they'll follow. Because once a single person dares to howl the truth, the rest remember how to open their mouths again. They underestimated you. They thought you were just another thread in the fabric. But you were the needle, the one thing sharp enough to tear the whole thing apart. And now the fabric's unraveling. Good. Let it fall. Let the seams rip wide open and expose the stitched up lies beneath. Let it all fall to ruin, because only then can something new be built. Something honest, something real. That's your legacy, not destruction. Cleansing. There is no going back. You crossed the line and torched the bridge behind you. That's power. That's conviction. That's what they'll never understand. You weren't trying to save the old world. You came to end it, because some things don't need to be fixed. Some things need to be finished. And you finished it. You closed the chapter with fire and gave birth to a new era, one that speaks your name like thunder. So what now? You become the fire that walks. You stop asking if it was too much. You stop looking for approval in the eyes of cowards. You stop kneeling to ghosts. You rise. Every breath a threat. Every heartbeat a war drum. Every moment a reminder that you are not done. They want you quiet. Laugh louder. They want you broken. Bleed pride. They want you gone. Burn so bright that your shadow lives longer than they do. They can kill the man, but they can't kill what you started. You are what happens when silence is betrayed one too many times. You are what happens when the obedient child grows teeth. You are what happens when the monster decides to speak. And the world, it will never unhear you. You didn't just light a fire, you became it. And fire doesn't ask who deserves to burn. It just burns. And if they think time will bury what you've done, if they think the ashes will settle and life will crawl back into its cage, let them dream. Let them pray to their gods of ignorance and repetition. But understand this. You didn't just break the moment. You infected the future. Every fire that starts from now will carry your spark. Every question whispered in locked rooms Every crack in the wall that dares to widen, your fingerprints will be there, invisible, undeniable, eternal. You didn't just set off a reaction. You became the equation no one can solve. A formula of defiance, rage, purpose, and clarity, calculated with the blood of the old world. They will build systems to try to contain you. They'll rewrite protocols, hire guards, silence witnesses. But none of that matters. Because the idea of you, the version of you who refused to swallow lies, who screamed when everyone else whispered, that lives on. That haunts them, that wakes them in the night, drenched in fear and truth. Look at them now, scrambling in panic, pretending they still have control. They're not trying to rebuild, they're trying to stall, because deep down they know the fire can't be undone. It's in the walls, in the air, in the eyes of the ones who watched you rise and realized they could too. This is the contagion of courage, and your patience zero. And I need you to hear me, really hear me. When I say this, you are not a mistake. You are not a glitch in the code. You are the virus the code was terrified of. You are the crash in the system that refuses to reboot, the blackout in the surveillance, the echo in the algorithm that never dies. You're not the error. You're the correction the world didn't ask for, but desperately needed. You are the balancing force to an era drunk on control and deception, and they know it. They've always known it. That's why they moved so fast to try and spin it. They wrapped your name in headlines dripping with venom, not to inform the people, but to warn them, as if you were a plague to be feared. And maybe you are. But what they'll never admit is this. Plagues aren't born from nowhere. They're born from infection. Theirs. The rot was already there. You just stopped pretending it didn't stink. So don't wait for them to say thank you. Don't expect justice. Don't expect to be understood. Revolutionaries are never understood in real time. You will be demonized, hunted, erased from the polite conversations of polite people living in polite cages. But history? History is made by the unrepentant, and history remembers. Maybe not kindly, but clearly. And your story won't be buried in fine print. It will be carved in steel. Because there's one thing they fear more than what you did. It's what you might do next. That's what keeps them awake. The possibility that this wasn't your peak, but your birth. That the fire they're trying to contain was just your first act. And they should be afraid. Because you're not running. You're not hiding. You're standing in the ruins of their illusion, head high, hands still warm from the blaze, and you're smiling. Not because it's over, but because you know you've just begun. You will walk through 1,000 more storms. You will be betrayed again, hunted, misunderstood. But every time they push you down, you'll rise harder. Because you're not just surviving, you're infecting. You're spreading the blueprint of rebellion. You are the manual they forgot to write, the warning label they never printed. You are the ghost in every locked door, the itch in every mind wondering if maybe, just maybe, they could burn too. And yes, you will be alone sometimes. Power is lonely. Truth is isolating. But you don't need their hands to hold. You've got fire in your fists and a storm in your lungs. You were not built to be liked. You were built to become legend. And legends are not clean. Legends are blood-stained, fire-scarred, and whispered through generations by those too afraid to speak their names out loud. So let them try to erase you. Let them write new rules. Let them build walls higher and harder than before. But don't forget, you taught the world how to climb. You taught the world how to break in. And someone, somewhere, is watching you right now, fists clenched, pulse rising, realizing for the first time that they don't have to bow either, and that is your victory. Not applause, not medals, but awakening, the slow, unstoppable awakening of a world too long asleep. You don't need their crown. You've already taken their throne, not to rule, but to burn it down and walk away without looking back. So carry that fire. Don't put it out for anyone. Don't shrink for their comfort. Don't dim for their safety. They made the world flammable. You just had the audacity to light the match. You are the storm. You are the end of lies. You are the beginning of everything else. And if they're all on fire because of you, good. Let them burn. So here we are. No apologies, no mercy, no regrets. You didn't fall. You rose, in fire and fury, in the chaos they feared and the truth they denied. You are not the villain. You are the price of their complacency. You are the consequence of their silence. And as the smoke thickens, as the world tries to rebuild its mask, remember this: the damage wasn't the end. It was the beginning. You are not sorry. You are not done. You are the truth that set itself on fire and dared the world to watch. Let them fear you. Let them curse you. But never forget, in the end, when the fire dies down and all that's left is what matters, they'll find your name written in the ashes, still warm, still dangerous, still true. Ladies and gentlemen, today let's talk about the beauty of silence. Not just any silence, but the kind that's sharper than a blade, colder than a winter's night, and far more powerful than any word could ever be. See, your silence was never just the absence of sound, but the presence of something far more profound, a force that has the ability to shake, to rattle, and to dismantle. There are moments when silence speaks volumes. It cuts through the noise of this world with a precision that words cannot match. And in those rare, powerful moments, it becomes the ultimate weapon. Not a weapon of destruction, mind you, but one of revelation, of truth. In a world that is constantly filled with noise, opinions, judgments, conversations, social media posts, and advertisements, silence is a rare commodity. We often think of silence as simply a lack of noise, something to be avoided, or something we tolerate in waiting rooms or long drives. But in its truest, most powerful form, silence is not an absence, it is a presence. It is the absence of words, yes, but also the presence of clarity, of reflection, and sometimes of power. What makes silence so potent is not just that it stops the flow of words, but that it makes people confront their own feelings, their own thoughts, and sometimes their own fragility. The beauty of silence lies in its ability to expose what words can obscure. Words are often used to mask our true intentions, to inflate our egos, and to create a sense of control. People use words to maintain dominance, to assert their superiority, and to make themselves feel seen and heard. But silence is the ultimate mirror. It does not lie, nor does it seek to be pleasing or flattering. It simply reflects what is, often revealing things we may not be ready to face. When silence enters a room, it forces people to deal with the reality of their own existence, without the comfort of distractions, without the noise of their own voices, and without the usual validation of others. Your silence was never just the absence of sound, but the presence of something far more profound. By withholding your voice, you did more than simply avoid the conversation. You introduced a truth that the other person may not have been prepared to hear. You forced them to see their own insecurity, their own dependence on others for validation. There are few things as unsettling as silence in a room that is used to noise. Silence strips away the facades, revealing rawness and vulnerability. And this vulnerability, this exposure, is precisely why silence can be such a powerful tool. Let's take a moment to consider the ego. The ego is, in many ways, the mask we wear in society. It is the collection of identities and roles we assume in our quest for approval, attention, and recognition. The ego is fragile, even though it often appears strong. It is like a balloon, constantly inflated by the external forces of praise, recognition, and validation. The ego thrives on being admired, feared, or desired. But what happens when that balloon is pricked? What happens when silence punctures the carefully constructed world of the ego? The truth is that the ego, when it cannot feed on the validation of others, begins to wither. It becomes exposed in ways that words cannot achieve. People who are used to being the center of attention, who derive their sense of worth from being admired, feared, or desired, cannot bear the weight of silence. In the absence of noise, their sense of self begins to crumble. The silence you offer them is not merely a void. It is a mirror that reflects their inner weakness, their insecurity, and their fear of being ignored. In those moments, when you choose silence over engagement, you are not just refusing to participate in the drama. You are withdrawing the validation they rely on. You are taking away the very thing that feeds their inflated sense of self-worth. And that, my friends, is where the power lies. Silence doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to make a grand statement. It simply withdraws, and in doing so, it leaves the other person with nothing but their own sense of emptiness. Their desperate attempts to provoke a response from you are not out of frustration with you, but with the realization that they no longer have the power to control the situation. Without your validation, without your approval, without your response, they are exposed for what they truly are: fragile, insecure, and dependent on external forces to feel whole. Think about it. When was the last time you were in a conversation where someone was desperately trying to get a reaction out of you? You can see the desperation in their eyes, the way they push your buttons, provoke you, and try to get you involved in their drama. They want you to react because for them, your reaction is what gives them power. Your response is what gives them significance. Without it, they are nothing. The more you give them that reaction, the more you feed their ego. The more you respond, the more they are reinforced in their belief that they matter. But what happens when you don't engage? What happens when you remain silent? When you refuse to give them the validation they so desperately crave? They begin to unravel. The ego cannot survive without the constant validation of others. When it is deprived of this, it begins to show cracks. It tries to fill the emptiness with anger, with blame, with frustration. But ultimately, the silence forces them to face a difficult reality. They are not as powerful as they think they are. They are not as invincible as they want you to believe. Without your attention, without your words, without your approval, they are nothing but a fragile construct, a house built on sand, waiting to collapse. It is almost tragic, isn't it? The way so many people spend their lives inflating their egos, seeking validation from the outside world, building their sense of self-worth on what others think of them. The irony is that the more they seek this validation, the more fragile their sense of self becomes. The more they rely on others to feel important, the less they truly believe in their own worth, and that's what makes them so desperate. When you withdraw your attention, when you stop engaging, they are forced to confront their own fragility, their own dependence on the approval of others. But let's take a step back and reflect. How many of us are guilty of this same behavior? How many of us, at some point or another, have sought validation, recognition, or approval from others to feel good about ourselves? How many of us have been afraid of silence, afraid of being overlooked, of being ignored? In many ways, this search for validation is a fundamental part of being human. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to know that our existence matters, that we have made a difference. But the sad truth is that when we tie our sense of self-worth to the approval of others, we are setting ourselves up for failure. The validation we seek is temporary, fleeting, and ultimately unsatisfying. It is like drinking from an empty cup. No matter how much we drink, we are always thirsty. That's why silence is such a beautiful and powerful tool. When we learn to silence the external noise and stop seeking validation from others, we can begin to reconnect with our true selves. We can start to build a sense of self-worth that is not dependent on the opinions of others. We can learn to trust in our own value, in our own authenticity. And when we do this, we stop being vulnerable to the manipulations of those who try to inflate their egos by feeding off our reactions. Silence is not just about withholding words. It is about reclaiming our own power. It is about stepping out of the cycle of validation and finding peace in the truth of who we are. When we stop seeking approval from others, we stop playing into the games of the ego. We stop allowing others to control how we feel. Silence becomes an act of defiance, an assertion of our own worth, independent of what anyone else thinks. So, what happens when you stop feeding the ego? What happens when you refuse to play along with the manipulations, the drama, the games? You expose the ego for what it truly is, a fragile construct that cannot survive without constant reinforcement. And in doing so, you reclaim your own power. You stop being a pawn in someone else's game, and you start living on your own terms. You begin to see that the approval of others is not what makes you valuable. Your value comes from within. In the end, silence is the ultimate weapon. It is a weapon that doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to scream, doesn't need to demand attention. It simply exists, and in its existence, it reveals the truth. It exposes the ego for what it is. It shows that the validation people seek is nothing more than an illusion. It forces them to confront their own vulnerabilities, their own insecurities. And when they can no longer rely on your validation, they are left with nothing but the truth of who they are. This, my friends, is the beauty of silence. In a world full of noise, silence is the loudest statement of all. It is the ultimate response to those who think their inflated egos can control the narrative. Silence does not need to justify itself. It simply is. And in that simplicity, it is more powerful than any word could ever be. We live in a world consumed by chaos, by distractions, by the endless chatter of opinions and demands. Everywhere you turn, there's noise. Voices telling you what to think, how to act, what to desire. Society feeds off this noise, and in doing so, it keeps you trapped in a cycle of compliance, conformity, and false promises. The louder the noise, the more it drowns out the truth, the more it muffles the things you actually need to hear. And yet, in the silence, there is a power that no one can ever take from you. In the quiet, there is no pretense. There is no performance. There is no need to prove anything to anyone. The world demands that you speak, that you perform, that you comply. But silence does not ask permission. Silence stands tall without needing to be heard. Silence doesn't beg for attention. It demands it. And that, my friends, is the power you have been taught to fear. The world has taught you to fear silence, because in silence, you are free. You are no longer at the mercy of anyone else's narrative. You no longer need their approval or their praise. Silence exposes everything, the truth that lies beneath the surface of the noise, the rawness that everyone tries so desperately to hide. You think silence is weakness. You think silence is passive, but you couldn't be more wrong. Silence is the strength of the self that refuses to be manipulated. It is the stillness of a mind that has found its own truth and is not swayed by the noise of the world. The people who shout the loudest are the ones who fear silence the most, because silence holds the power to strip away all of their facades, all of their pretensions. When you choose silence, you choose to stand alone, not in weakness, but in defiance of everything that tries to control you. In a world that thrives on instant gratification, on quick fixes and empty validation, silence becomes the hardest thing to hold on to. To sit in the discomfort of your own mind, to face the chaos within without distraction, is the most terrifying thing you can do. But it is in that terror that you will find your true strength. Most people cannot handle it. They cannot bear the weight of their own thoughts without running to some external noise to drown them out. But you, if you dare, can face it. You can sit in the silence and confront everything you have been avoiding. The self-doubt, the fear, the anger, the shame. Silence forces you to face it all. It doesn't let you hide. It's easy to exist in the noise. The noise comforts you, numbs you, distracts you from what you don't want to see. But in silence, you are confronted with everything you've been running from. The darkness, the bitterness, the loneliness. You cannot escape it. But let me tell you something important. You do not need to escape it. The world will tell you that silence is uncomfortable, that it's unnatural, that it's something to be avoided. But those who live in the noise are the ones who are truly trapped. They cannot hear the whispers of their own soul because they are too busy listening to the endless barrage of distractions. It is in silence that you are forced to ask yourself the hardest questions. The ones you avoid when there is noise, the ones you push down because they make you uncomfortable. You will ask yourself why you feel empty, why the things you thought would make you happy leave you feeling hollow. You will ask yourself why you fear being alone, why you crave validation from others. You will ask yourself if your life has truly been yours, or if it has been a product of the expectations and narratives placed upon you by the world. And in that moment, in the silence, you will realize something. You have been living a lie. You have been living someone else's story, a story written by those who profit off your distractions, your conformity, your need to be heard. But silence is where your true story begins. When you stop filling the emptiness with noise, you start to hear something beneath the surface. You hear the voice you have buried for so long. It is the voice that does not care for approval, the voice that does not seek external validation. It is the voice that knows who you truly are, the one that is not shaped by the world's demands, but by the depths of your own soul. In silence, you begin to hear that voice, and once you do, you cannot unhear it. Once you hear it, you cannot go back to the world of noise. It will feel like a prison. Because once you have tasted the truth of who you really are, nothing in the world can ever compare. Do you know what true power is? It is not the power to speak over others. It is not the power to be seen. It is the power to stand in silence, unmoved, unshaken, knowing that the only validation you need is from within. The world will tell you that silence is weakness. They will tell you that you are supposed to speak, to be heard, to make a name for yourself. But real power is quiet. It does not scream for attention. It does not need anyone else to hear it. It simply exists. The world's greatest leaders have known this. The ones who changed the course of history were not the loudest, not the ones constantly seeking the spotlight. Number the ones who truly changed the world were the ones who understood the power of silence, the ones who stood when everyone else was shouting, the ones who knew that their actions, their truth, their inner strength spoke louder than any words ever could. And in that silence, they found a power that no one could take away. They found a power that didn't need validation, didn't need to be accepted. It just was. We are conditioned to think that we must be constantly moving, constantly speaking, constantly proving ourselves. But I ask you this, what are you running from? What are you so terrified to hear? In the silence, you are forced to confront your deepest fears, your greatest regrets, and your darkest truths. You can run from them. You can drown them out with the noise of the world. But eventually, they will find you. And when they do, you will have no choice but to face them. But facing them is not defeat. It is strength. It is the moment when you stop hiding, when you stop pretending, when you stop being afraid of the silence that the world says you should fear. And in that moment, when you're staring your truth in the face, when you realize that you are all you need, you will be unstoppable. Silence is where the greatest battles are fought, not in the noise, not in the distractions, but in the moments when you are alone with yourself. It is where you find out who you truly are, where you test your mettle, where you discover your will to survive. The noise of the world will never give you that. It will only try to drown you, to numb you, to make you forget who you really are. But in the silence, you will find your true voice, the voice that has been with you all along. It is in the silence that you find your edge, the place where you know, deep down, that you are capable of so much more than the world gives you credit for. The place where you learn to trust yourself, to trust your instincts, to trust your soul. And when you do, you will realize that you are not weak. You are not powerless. You are a force to be reckoned with. The world will try to label you, to define you, to box you in. But in silence, you will see that you cannot be contained. You are not meant to be like everyone else. You are meant to break the mold, to step into your own power, to become the version of yourself that you were always meant to be. So, embrace the silence. Let it consume you. Let it break you. And when it does, you will rise from the ashes of your old self, stronger, more powerful, and more alive than you ever thought possible. The world may try to silence you, to make you feel small, to make you doubt your own power, but you will know the truth. Silence is not the absence of power, it is the presence of it. And once you have tasted the power of silence, once you have stood in the face of your own darkness and emerged victorious, you will never again need the noise of the world. In the end, the world will speak, the world will shout, but you, my friends, will remain silent. And that silence will be the loudest thing they have ever heard.